Hello, everybody. Welcome to the live. I heard we got a reprieve from the U.S. overlords about taking away our freedom of speech, and that is very exciting. I like it. Yeah. So it is amazing to see all of you, and the fact that we can continue this tradition of us talking in and around the industry. Uga Chaka is here. We can all celebrate or cry depending on your
there's
feelings.
Isaac. What's up, Isaac?
Oh. Alrighty then. So today's topic is about board gaming in 2025 and the use of video and the media landscape. And I think it's really important to recognize, like, some of the use of video in board gaming. Like, James did an amazing thing with some of his crowd funds, choosing to be the face of his updates. And if you ever get a chance to interact with James in person, you realize this P.T. Barnum larger-than-life phenomenon actually carries over to the chickens in real life, which is really, really good. All right, James, I gave you the topic a little bit. Have you been thinking about this, and where would you like to start?
Absolutely not, Seppi. I am the worst guest, but I will say I have a field example this week. I have in my Discord, everything's kind of moved to my Discord, right? Because all these algorithms on all the other media platforms, they do or don't show your stuff. So I put a lot of my effort into moving the community over to Discord, where I can control what people see in the conversation.
All right, so that is the number one piece of advice. If you are interested in having your efforts stick in 2025, I think James is right on the nose with it. And everybody, of course, welcome to the Board Game Live. I'm Seppi, Chief Game Designer for Fight and Box Games. My special guest is James Hudson from Druid City Games, who he's hiding his own stuff. And we are talking about the board game, and specifically the board game media landscape in 2025. So James rightly said, where am I putting my effort? Where am I feeling like it's rewarded? And that is curated spaces. And the number one curated space that I encourage people to think about after newsletter's number one, is a Discord.
And Seppi, that example that I was getting into, I think one of the things you can kind of Voltron these things together, right? So somebody asked a question, and it was a difficult question, right? Difficult questions, I feel like, should be answered with your face, right? Because when you use text, when you typey, it can be read with whatever inflection that person wants to read it with. Oh. And so what I did is, I didn't do it on purpose, so I can't take credit for it. I was like, I'm just going to record, a response to this question and put it in Discord. But the file was too big and it wouldn't let me. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to snip that question. I'm going to throw it up as a post on TikTok. And it reminded me, I should be doing this anyway, because now I'm getting I'm doing two things at once, right? I'm engaging about industry questions that probably other people have, so they can get the context of that, get the feedback of that. But then also I'm giving that person a very good response that is genuine and it has that inflection. So hopefully you get your point across without any stub toes.
Yes. And people can feel more of the context in which you are trying to deliver it, right?
Yeah, for
Your
sure.
cadence matters. Like the things you're bringing about Reddit, it's harder to cut it out of context.
Well, the reason I said it was going to be a difficult question is because the person was very wrong in their assumptions. And so it was a bit of a teaching moment, even though they didn't ask for a teaching moment. But the thing is, if we don't, as the creators, if we don't give perspective and we don't push back when assumptions are made about things that are just they're wildly inaccurate, right? Just wildly inaccurate. If we don't push back and say, well, here's actually how that works. And this isn't just me. I talk to my peers. This is how it works for them as well, right? So like, obviously everything's on a spectrum. So like somebody might handle it differently, but for the most part,
you know, there's international borders, different business models, different game types, all of those things. Yeah, absolutely.
But in general, this is why we handle it the way we do. And I want to give you that context so that you can understand why those decisions were made. But also, I don't want you to think I'm a jackass, you know, like I'm not coming at you with an answer. And in text, it's going to feel like you're coming at them. But when you have that inflection in the video, you can say, listen, I understand why you feel that way, right? Like I could see how you came to that conclusion. However, this is why we do it the way we do it. And then what they do with that information from there is up to them. But at least you've presented it in a way that's, you know, got a little compassion.
It is very hard, like, humor and like giving people wiggle room is much harder in text. Like you know, like to get humor to hit on text, you gotta lead the person to where you want them to be to get that joke to work.
Have you seen the Key and Peele skit where
yes. Oh, so like, you want to go? Let's go.
Oh, you want to go? Oh, let's go then.
Oh, you crazy nut. Let's go.
I'm a nut, you know. Yeah, so and you referenced it before where I did do that in my backer updates because one, you know, not everybody has, well, look at that crab.
It's been a while.
Not everybody's great writers, right? I am a product of Alabama education system, which is in the dumps. So James's grammar is a -5 aura, as the kids would say.
All right. So, I like to celebrate my friends, and when something is exceptional about them, how long does it take you and your crew to write an instruction book, James?
You mean like a rule book for our game?
Yeah.
Months and months and thousands of hours. I mean, hundreds of hours.
All right. So, Princess took an exorbitant amount of time, but for example, and I know this to be true in multiple cases, Jeff Tidwell from Left Justified can write a full and amazing instruction book in a week that would take somebody else a month. Like, and I'm talking about all our peers here in the Twin Cities. Like, it's crazy. Like, if he, like, occasionally he has bandwidth and helps people out. And the math of it is, I know he charges like 3 times as much as everybody else when he does it because he doesn't have whatever. But you're still saving 25% of the cost. Like, how much? Like, what would you do, James, to save 25%? And then just think about the extra time. Like, you saved 3 calendar weeks and 25% off the cost of that instruction book.
Yes, I would pay yes.
It's incredible to see him do it. I'm not even like Jeff's just a buddy of mine, but when people like demonstrate a superhuman skill, like your presence on screen and your ability to communicate empathically, and like that is something that should be celebrated as a skill that you've not only have, but you've worked on, right?
I don't know. All my teachers told me to shut up. I was never going to amount to anything. So,
well, you are back in Alabama.
Hey, I did go back to California for a weekend to go see the crew over the holiday break.
Okay, that
doesn't mean anything other than I recharged my batteries with my Californians.
Oh, that's good. So we're talking about like the media landscape in 2025, and James, of course, like a good guest, he and I went down a rabbit hole in and around like things that people should think about. Woo! So rightly so, if you are thinking about joining us here in the game industry, and you are trying to think about the steps that you would need to take to curate your own community, you should start with having something that is clear, that a clear ask, like play testing, this kind of thing, you should start something simple with a newsletter for the people who are highly motivated. And then you should think about how those steps lead them closer to you.
You should start a TikTok, 100%, and just document everything. Like your posts are just whatever you're doing daily. It is incredible. That's one of the reasons I got so sad about the thought of TikTok going away. There's so many people that I follow that they're literally just doing a mini vlog of the tasks that they do every day. But we are so desperate for something genuine and transparent and not AI fake and not the stupid rage bait, clickbait stuff that is presented to us everywhere else. TikTok really cuts through that in a lot of ways. Obviously you can curate that algorithm to whatever you want. But if you're starting a board game company, document it. Just make 30-second posts here and there on TikTok. It's a great way to get a following. Do you know anybody?
All right. So Stephen Scheffelbein had sounded in. I texted him earlier in the week because I don't know if you knew this, but Sunday was International Kiss a Ginger Day. But he helps people start their media landscape journey. And starting, the best thing that you can do for your content is making daily content. I think that's really somebody had a very good, but think about that. Please cover the top 10 newsletter subjects in one of these. All right. Newsletter subjects. James, are you experiencing other people's newsletters and who's getting it right? I have another amazing example of people getting it right. What do you make sure that you cover in any given newsletter? And do you do it monthly, bi-monthly, weekly? What are you doing?
I am pretty bad about the newsletter cadence. I probably get out about 3 or 4 newsletters a year. And here's why. I probably interject too much of my own buying habits in this case. I don't want to bother people unless I've got something really important to say. Like, I don't want to come into your inbox unless I got something I really need to say. I think generally once a month is, hey, a State of the Union, what's going on with the company once a month is standard, right? Like and I think people are okay with that. Like, you're not going to see your unsubscribe rate skyrocket if that's what you're doing. I think I don't know if you guys have done this, but let's say you buy something from a company and, then within buying, I bought some freaking underwear from this company, right? And then they emailed me 7 days in a row with an offer.
Oh my.
And I'm like, God, who wants this? So
I guess they were really concerned. Was there a particular sizing thing that made them want to send you 7 messages, James? I'm a little confused.
It was just check out this. We sell this, discount here. If you come back and buy something else. And I get that they're trying to get those additional sales. Good for you. But every day in a row after a walk for 7 days, come on, guys.
James makes an important point, and we like to try to be educational here. If you're just starting out and you're trying to figure out what to do with your newsletter, the number one thing you should do is be genuine. What happened in your month that people would care about, and what is happening in the month coming up that people might want to join in.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So if you're working on games or a game platform, a content platform, having something that people understand, this is what I went through, this is why you might care about it, and this is what's coming up, right? So, I don't know how you're not doing as many conventions, but there's a reason to talk about each convention coming up. And if you're doing conventions right, you are going to be saying something meaningful to that part of your audience each time. So the general hey, this is what has happened. This is what's coming up is probably the very first thing. Then, if you want to be more adventurous, you talk about topics that affect you either as a business, as a creator, or as an individual that might shine a light on things that people care about.
No, for sure. I think it depends too, where you're at with your company. Let's say that you're brand new and you're working on your first board game. Once a month might be too much because what are you really sharing, right? Maybe you are showing the updates along the way of what you're doing, but I don't know, I could see where people might struggle with that. Like, what did I do this month? Especially if you're a moonlighter, because a lot of people, when they're launching it for the first time, they're moonlighting. And so, like, it may have been an off month where you didn't get to put a lot of hours into the game, and there may only be like 2 pictures in your entire phone roll from the whole year. From the whole month. So, whereas like me, like in Druid City, like we've got 6 or 7 SKUs projects that are in some stage of something that I can share news about at any one given time regularly. So it's pretty easy to throw together like what's the latest going on with things. Take that. I'm always, and I get a lot of flack for this, and my backers don't like this about me, and I'm kind of okay with it, but I'm also trying to be better.
Don't be okay with it. Don't be okay with it.
I think there's different ways. I don't want to say something if I don't have anything to say. And so they're like, hey, it's January 1st. Where's my backer update?
Well,
once a month.
that is you having to deal with the injuries that they've gotten from other experiences in that space, right? I forgive that one. People want to at least like a comment or like a little bit of something that says, hey, this is the progress that has been made on this thing that is like next to an investment. And so, yeah, like it's a thing. You would be surprised. Everything is content. Everything is shareable if done well enough. And doing things on the regular will make it easier, and you will understand what is fascinating about you. Now, you might think I don't do enough stuff for a once-a-month newsletter. Then don't do it. But you probably actually do more than enough. Like right. The questions that you ask yourself, like, James, I never thought I had, like, in me to do, like, a once-a-week deep dive discussion. And it happened.
Here we are.
And then I did not think I had enough to say about board game design to talk about it on a daily basis, but apparently I do. Like the board game design tip for the day is a very real thing that people are enjoying on the other platforms that I do that on. So it is sort of part of the flavor of what you want to do. Like James has made it very clear that if you get a written thing from James, he's got something to say. Right?
That's the hope, right? That's the hope.
Right.
I'm never going to be like, hey, this month we don't have much to say, so here is a picture of my puppy dog. At least not through.
I would want to see that puppy dog. Come on, James. Like, I'm a dog person. I love
not through the Kickstarter updates, specifically. And on, you know what? It's a bit of PTSD because Kickstarter is so crummy with their. Where I hope no Kickstarter spies are in here. Their technology is so donkey water. It's just bad. And so like I'm so afraid of people unsubscribing from the updates. And then later when I'm like something very important like close out your pledge manager comes up, they don't get that notification. They don't send me their shipping.
All right. Okay. This is something that's very, very, very important for people to understand if they're going to do regular communication. All right. And that regular communication even can be like, I'm running a demo or I'm doing this live. Like sure. 20 seconds out of every minute, somebody's brain just wanders off. 20 seconds out of every minute, they like, James, I've already seen you wander off.
It just happened right now.
Like, people take it very seriously when people aren't paying attention to them. They think it's a judgment. But instead, people need by every minute, a moment in their own head to squirrel away what they're thinking and what they're experiencing out in the world.
Yeah.
And so add that to an entire month of communication. Like, when are people paying attention? Like, you don't know when you're going to hit your inbox, but hopefully you are hitting people's inbox on the regular at a regular time. So if they are looking for it, which some people really do, then you can meet that expectation. It's like, okay, boom. Like, Fight in a Box, it's Tuesdays or Thursdays, and it's once a month. That's generally how we do our things. And usually it's 11 o'clock Central.
Andromeda has joined my team. Pendragon, and
Ooh.
they are amazing. And they've made it very clear to me, we will be doing once a month updates, James. It doesn't matter. Like, this is something that you have to do, period. And I'm like, all right, you got it.
Well, if Andromeda says that, then they have to do what's good with somebody who's like you and get what they need from you so that they can do this thing. Like asking you to do something that you are inherently at a different internal clock with, your team needs to fill in the spaces on that clock to make that happen. So,
and that opens up to a bigger thing of like, in general, I hope anybody who's listening to this, if you're launching a company on the front end of it, like try to be self-aware about the things where your strengths and weaknesses are, and then hire as best you can. I know that, bribe, whatever you got to do, your friends or other freelancers to aid you on your weaknesses. It really is worth the investment to bring in, like you just said, if Jeff Titball comes in and does my rule book, then it's a better rule book.
He's superhuman. He is so good at it.
And
he has over
family,
140
right?
titles to his name, like at various types of credits. And you can see that like 30 plus years in the game industry experience in and around that stuff. All right,
well, Jeff, so we use,
said,
a couple of years back, I actually started using Jonathan Cox, who does John Gets Games.
Nice.
For a very similar reason. He's like, I sent him because he does the tutorials and how to plays, and I sent him a rule book for this game. He's like, James, can I tell you something? I'm like, oh yeah. He's like, this rule book sucks. He's like, it needs to be completely rearranged. The way that you're the ideas that you're introducing to people it's all in the wrong order. He's like, right. I've already rearranged
Before you go any farther on the topic of rule books, let me put a very clear disclaimer for rule books. Rule books will be the thing that you spend an enormous amount of time on that nobody will really care about unless you really screw it up. Like, you will spend so much time trying to do this thing that only has the chance to hurt your market value, won't actually help like sell people on your game.
Yeah.
And so it's very, very bitter. Like, for me, I've taken to the fact that the first draft of the game rules, I should not write.
Really?
Yeah, I should not write. Like, I literally will sit down, someone else, and I will do the demo for them, and then they can write the first draft structurally, and then I can work with the structure. I was an editor for a publication, right? So I'm really good on the editing end. I'm very colorful with colorful speech, but it will drag if I am like, it will be a sticking point in the timeline if I am the first draft person. Like, another person who's like inherently just dropped into this thing is going to produce this. Even if I rewrite 75% of it, James, it's a better idea for somebody else to do the first draft.
But you know that about yourself, and then now I'm sure that process has smoothed out by you learning that about yourself and finding the flow that works, right? And for us, typically we get something into a Word document, and now that immediately goes to Jonathan, right? Then we get on TTS, we play whatever version of the game is the game's in.
Oh, I think you got that wrong. You should play the game first and then
this is the way he likes to do it. And this is me also like kind of adjusting it to his flow. Then he comes back with that document. He ends up asking 800 questions because that's necessary. And then he rewrites it and rearranges it. And then we're like, cool, we'll add graphics to this. Boom, done. And it really
diagrams are another important step.
Oh yeah.
About like when you are talking about the rules, the words and the consistency of language is a real sticking point for this. Like, what are game terms, which are general gaming terms, what are universal for everybody terms, getting that lexicon done. And then after that, you have to think about your own visual language that you are going to do. I didn't even know I could give you like, I'm about to figure this out. But okay, so for people who are just joining us, my amazing guest is James Hudson. We're discussing board gaming in 2025. And in particular, we're talking about the media aspect.
No, we're not.
We went down the rabbit hole.
Rabbit trail. We go all over the place, as we were just talking about rule books.
No, it's amazing. And the fact is, we are talking about how to approach your project in steps in a meaningful way. And we went from curated spaces, which was Discord and newsletters, to okay, how is this presented across everything else? Now, the general rule for anybody starting out in the gaming business that I love to remind people, because I am particularly bad at this, but people should really think about it, is for every hour in your company somebody spends creating a thing, somebody needs to be spending 1 hour promoting the thing you're creating. And that is, we created a video. That is, we created a video about the video. Like, everything that you do needs to be promoted because people don't know what you've got going on. Just like you said earlier, James, you know, if you send it in text, you don't know where the person is. You have to say things in repetition in a way that is meaningful for the people who pay attention for the first time, also to the people who are just catching it the 12th time. Like, one of the amazing things about TikTok is, and you see the people who are very good at it, is their content, you can jump in no matter if you've seen their content before or if it's the first time you're seeing their content. You get the bit right away. And trying to figure out your voice for that, for your board game company or projects, is a money-making skill. It will help your universe in so many ways that you don't even know. All right, so just so you know, we have James only for 20 more minutes, but stay with me. If you don't notice, we have a very different background. I have a very special tour. Considering that this was potentially our last board game live, I went all out, got an Uber, and took ourselves to someplace that is board game special.
Nice. And Seppi, who knows? I mean, what they say could be, who knows? We're living in silly times. So
we are living in incredibly silly times. The last time the political and media landscape collided to such levels of surrealism was in the 80s, and people were terrified of stopping this guy from walking into a presidential like State of the Union because he was covered in HIV sores. And then that same year or the next couple of years, that you have Ronald Reagan telling people to make his day with nuclear weapons. This is not a surreal thing. This is not the first time this has happened in my existence, but it has been a long time coming.
Wait, you guys don't want to join the U.S., eh?
Oh my God, there are these Canadian maps that people are drawing that are including Minnesota, and I'm like, I would. Uh-oh, what happened, James?
Sorry, did I freeze?
No, I can hear you now. Yeah, you muted yourself.
I had to turn it off. Who calls people? It's 2025. Oregon, Washington, California to join Canada, right? It's like, hey, we could just take over the western coast, and then now what? Now what?
I spent 3 weeks last summer with the constant smell of forest fire from Canada, and I'm in Minneapolis. How much of Canada had to be on fire for me to smell it for 3 solid weeks? I had to check air alerts because some of the couple of those days were don't go outside.
Yeah. No, if you have a chance, go look up the Palisades fire.
Oh my God, it's crazy.
The International Space Station, they can see the fire from the space station.
but we're living in surreal times.
Okay.
But the point is, and I say this a lot in our other medias, like it is more like if you do not think board games matter, that is, I fundamentally believe that that's not true. We need bridges to each other. We need more reasons to connect to each other and more ways to spend time with other people in a face-to-face situation that doesn't involve, that involves intellectually stimulating things, right?
Yeah.
Like I've had a lot of like adult beverages with people, and that is a thing. And I obviously like myself a dinner. That's really good. But a board game does not require both of those things and might actually help you improve some of your skills in other ways as well. So you can extend your time with your friends and create regular, meaningful contact with people around a shared activity.
Absolutely. It's this week I met somebody new because in our neighborhood. And they said, "Hey, whoa, board games? Yeah, I played Catan, and
good on them."
And I was like, and I said, "Well, we'll have you over. We'll do dinner, and we'll play some board games." And instantly, the color left their face, and I was like, "Who hurt you? Who hurt you? It's not gonna be like that. It's gonna be great. And if you're not comfortable, then we'll just sit around and we'll talk. Like we don't even have to. But like it." You could tell there is some past trauma there of a bad board game experience. And I'm like, it doesn't have to be that way. Let me take my hand. Let's go. It'll be fun.
All right. Two things for that. I was extending our con reach to the local anime conventions, and a lot of them have board game areas and board game rooms. I did not realize how willing people were to spend a lot of time on Jenga and Uno. And they will play a lot of Jenga and Uno. It is a real thing. And I, as someone who has games, sort of a few gateway games, do it like how to get them past the trauma that you are talking about to try other things along the way is one of the things, if you are interested in making games as a hobby or for a living, that you will need to be able to do. Because the number of gamers more than doubled after the dark times and is continuing to grow. But the number of people participating in game media did not grow in proportion to the number of people who have discovered gaming. The number of people who have discovered gaming. And so there's a huge disparity right now. And that's why today's topic is meaningful, like the landscape in 2025. Because since the dark times, the largest group of people who identify as gamers, according to some market reports, are women gamers.
Mm-hmm.
But important facts about women gamers are, number one, traditionally, spaces for gamers don't include them. Conventions are getting better and better, but
Yes.
local spaces in particular. Number two, in general, as the most focused group as far as ad spend goes, like women are more expensive to market to, and they prefer to go places that shop places they feel more comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? Like my perfect example for this as a difference between gender and habits is a dude will eat anything out of a gas station.
Yeah. It's true.
While it is a safe assumption, of course, there's not all women. It is a safe assumption that a woman would not shop in a place that they would not feel comfortable to use the restroom.
Sure. Seppi,
Right?
do you know, or at least this is my theory, do you know why it's that way? Or at least why? Because
Dirty
things are
bathrooms are
designed.
gross, and men should have better standards.
Well, yes. These spaces are just defaultly comfortable for men. So like the things we are the default, right? Because generally in the past, all the leadership has looked the same in these organizations that build out these spaces in conventions, game stores. And so then they replicate what makes them comfortable, which then only reaches out to that one demographic. And so to really change these things, I know I'm preaching now, you have to diversify the leadership of the organizations and the company. And once you do that, the natural outflow, right? Because you have different inputs from people who don't look like you get a better outcome.
The best way I like to explain that is like your beverage and food choices in the 80s versus now. Like if you look at any stream of beverages or food types, you will realize that multiculturalism, fusions in particular, like Top Chef did an amazing job of making everybody realize they wanted any kind of fusion, like a fusion restaurant. It's like collide these two things together. Yeah. So it is great. Now, Gamma has been trying to very hard to change, especially in the last 10 years. There's been a lot of things.
Hey, one of the things that I'm a part of, and I'm going to put a plug in for, is the Rose Gauntlet Foundation. And we run, I'm on the board, and we run the BIPOC Lounge at Gen Con. And it's done so well. And this is a real testament to Isaac and Lindsay. They are freaking amazing. Now we're considering in Origins, and Gamma would like for us to bring that to Origins. The PAXs have talked to us about how do we get more involved at the PAXs. And so, I really want to, if you're listening to this, okay, now I'm going to sell you. If you're listening to this and you're like, I don't think this is that important. What Seppi told you that started this whole line of conversation is the biggest growing demographic in our space is women.
Yeah.
The more diversified, the more welcoming your product is to all demographics, the more people you sell it to. So if you're just a dirty capitalist that only cares about money, you should care about diversity because it helps you sell your product to more people.
It does. And that also gets us back to today's topic, which is the media landscape, media landscape in 2025. So why it's so important for like an indie to jump to like a Target or a Barnes & Noble is these are places that the group of people that we've been talking about who do not participate in game media, like per capita, like plays games, participates in game media. It's like they shop at bookstores, and particularly like the chains, and they shop at like these big stores. And it is a way for them on their time and in their space to discover things that they care about in a way that's meaningful to them. Okay. Sure. Right now, if you talk about the various platforms, in particular the one that I am most irritated at right now, which is all the meta things for all the meta reasons. For the history of board gaming, meta was Facebook was intrinsically linked to crowdfunding.
Yeah.
And it was so at the beginning of like the real Kickstarter success here, so we're like at 2010, you could advertise and interact on Facebook in such a way that it was almost transactional. Like you could cost effectively say, my game is this, and therefore I want to do this. And you could boost your project. If the project was successful, like if it was a lame duck, it was not going to happen. Then you can make that happen. Well, you still sort of can do that in Facebook, but the cost of it is now over $8.75. Like, if you cannot afford $8.75 a minimum for conversion, you should really be looking elsewhere for how you want to do that kind of thing. Like the amount of ads, like the way the algorithm works for ad spend is Obviously something that is put in front of somebody the requisite number of times, and I say this every week, and the requisite number of times is 9 to 12 times. Like, it will not register until they see it that 9 to 12 times, know who they are. And if you cannot afford to put that in front of that person that many times, which you can't at that kind of price, like, it has become a complete barrier. And so, additionally, with other platforms participating in crowdfunding, so we've got, not only Kickstarter, but BackerKit has its own, if you like RPGs. And you've also, of course, got GameFound. If you have a certain size audience already and a certain size game already, like, all these things are a real big deal and they have their own audiences too. But it breaking apart means that it is even harder for an indie to get people's attention. Like, the fracturing of media, and on per our topic, the fracturing of media has made it so smaller guys who can't pay to play are finding it harder and harder to get the same kind of oomph they did even recently.
Yep. And I think that's another reason to bring it back to TikTok. And I'm glad that it's not getting, got another hat. Yeehaw! Partner.
Yeehaw!
And I think we could probably name off some examples. I think like John DeCampos, who is a indie publisher, does a phenomenal job with his TikTok. So if you don't follow him, go look him up. He does such terrible games, right? No, Black Mold was one of his games. I forget the name of it.
Yeah, terrible games, John. Yeah, no, like Black Mold.
Okay. He does a great job of just kind of like what I said earlier. Like, he just kind of captures a little bit of his day, posts it, right? And engages.
If we're gonna celebrate people, Matthew from Enveryborn, like, his whole series of, are you gonna play video games? Are you gonna play games with me tonight? I'm splitting the check. Like,
yeah.
It's so, like, his delivery is good. He asks the people there, like, the bit, and you still watch it to the completion every time.
Well, and the reason I brought up John is I think Steven quite a while ago asked, like, what do we show everything? Do we show some things? I think you can.
The answer is yes and yes.
Yes and yes and no. Like, only do what you're comfortable doing, right? Like, because if you're not comfortable doing or sharing whatever you're sharing, that's going to kind of come through a little bit through the video as well. So just lean into the areas that you are comfortable. But, like, also,
the big caveat, and this is something that, of course, you people need to know about you, James. James, you're more comfortable with these things. Like, you're going to start awkward.
What are you talking about?
You're going to start awkward. Not everybody's a showman like you, James. You're going to start awkward. You should feel out things that you think you're improving with too, or you're like, no, that's really not me. Where am I strong, and so forth and whatnot. So James is right, but also James should realize there's a learning curve. Like, the best thing that people need to realize is the first time you do something is you're going to be bad at it. Let yourself be bad at things, right?
Well, and so, like, if you don't like maybe you don't like to be on camera, you can do forward-facing things. I hate it. Right? Like, don't put yourself on camera. Just record some stuff on a table. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, I think the point that I hope I was getting across is just start. It's just the same way when we make our game. Just start making it. Just start doing it. It doesn't even really matter. And to your point, it's gonna be cringe, as the kids say to begin with, and it's gonna probably get low views. But if you're consistent, people will start to kind of like latch on to whatever you're laying down. And I think John does a great job of that.
There's also a virtuous circle about how you build your content library and what you learn and all this other kinds of stuff. I forgot, like, the best way to talk about that virtuous circle. That could be a topic on its own. But, it's okay to be bad at things. Like, and be ready to be if anybody can, like, I'm proof that you can have a life in gaming. Yeah. If you're willing to be bad at things and make sacrifices.
But, Steppy, the reason we think, here, I'm going to preach again. The reason we think we're bad at things is because the only things that get elevated.
Because we are. Because there's people like you and Jeff Timble in the world. That's why.
The things that get elevated to the top are these, like, I call it the kind of the Clark Griswold effect, right? Like, there are these they're almost like AI perfect, right? Nothing. The reason people
This is crazy. This is crazy. This is crazy.
This is what people love about TikTok and following people, that it feels more genuine when I know you're not putting on for me, right? Like if I'm actually a part of your day and I'm getting that window into seeing how you start your board game company and the projects that you work on and what you're bringing to market, that makes me feel like I'm a part of it, as opposed to being perfectly packaged advert. That's not, I don't want any more adverts,
And you do touch on another great point, because you're filled with a great point, James, and it's about media landscape. We live in an environment now where I exist in the exact same space as you. And so I can see where the top tier is, and then I can see where myself is. And where I should be measuring is my increment getting towards you, not the fact that I am still down here.
And it doesn't matter where you're at on the scale. You always look at people above, below, around, whatever.
You should look at that person has a great idea, or that person is doing well. Can I have a version of that?
Absolutely.
Right?
You don't have
and
to
then
reinvent
try it
the wheel.
on.
Just copy them. Just copy them.
All learning starts with copying. That's how, as children, I think we forget. We start by imitating. And if you do things enough, they become your own. You cannot help but make things your own.
So copy it and then give credit, right? Like, hey, right. I saw John DeCampos do this. I want to do my version of it. And then just do it.
James is running out of time really quickly. And I'm going to give 3 important things that he had said. There are 3 organizations that are doing a Rose Gauntlet, Tabletop Gamers, and the Horizon Fellowship out of Gamma are all overlapping, doing great things for helping add sushi to everybody's menu, to add German beer to every the equivalent of what are they adding to the board game experience that everybody should realize. Wingspan has been fantastic for the hobby because it allowed a lot of people in to a heavier weight game who would never try it.
Absolutely.
And so forth and whatnot. All right, James, I know you got to go because kids, dentists, things. What's your last finish up on this topic? And everybody do not leave. I went to a special place and we're going to do a special tour after James leaves.
That's awesome. It's going to be what I would always say is just make the thing, right? Just do it. I know you don't want to do it. You might have apprehension. That's going to happen, but it's worth it to start walking through. I think somebody earlier just said, "Hey, it's Maxwell." Maxwell's recording themselves.
Everybody's favorite game designer is game designer.
It helped them get better at public speaking, and I'm sure if Maxwell was on here, they'd say the first time they did it, they were terrified. Right. So it's always the first time's always gonna be bad. Just keep going.
It's true. It's true. All right, James. I know you got to go do kid things. Thank you again for being an amazing guest. Since this is the 3rd time with you,
at least, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like we have still untapped territory, you and I. I'm going to keep on inviting you back.
Listen, I am a professional jabber. I'm happy to jab.
You are the jabber walker away because you have to go walk away now. Thank you, everybody. James, last thing, what should people be expecting from you next?
So, great question. Bloodstone will finally be making its comeback to Kickstarter this spring. Then we're going to be working on, we've got a Borderlands War faction expansion that'll be coming later this year. So those are the 2 big tentpole items.
Whoa. Yeah. All right. Well, James, go do that stuff. I will bug you and thank you later. You are fantastic. All right, everybody who's still with us. If you have not jumped from James to me, now's your chance because we're going to go on a tour of one of the most fantastic spaces in gaming. Woo-hoo! All right, everybody. I promise this tour, and we're going to do it. Do you guys want to see it? Please tell me if you'd like to see me interact with it or you would like to just see the space for where it is. All right, let me see if I gotta get this off of the stand. Okay. All right. So, one of the most important things is to understand that you have places to go and there are dreams that you can have. So I am currently in the Chip Theory shooting space for their game studio. And I think this space is so creative and is a star on itself. So if you want to see more aspects of this, you got to tell me to stop and zoom in. All right, Max. Well, that's good. I'll see you tonight as well. All right. So I'm gonna be less yelly now, which is not my normal thing. So of course, every great space needs a huge studio with all the equipment they need to do shooting. All right. And then why am I there? There is the distributor, GTS distributor came into town and invited all the Minneapolis people out for a game night. And so since TikTok was potentially going away, I decided that I would just do our last TikTok live here. So as you can see, every space in gaming should have a test area that is this big. So we're doing, like, if you don't have a glowing poker table, what are you doing with your game company? Really, like, you need, like, you need, like glowy poker chips. It's all right. We'll go think. Okay. Like, there are a lot of adventurous choices. Like, but you should, of course, show off the catalog of your games in a way that everyone has its own lighted area. So we're looking at all of the big titles. Obviously, the biggest new one, Manny Tremblay adding his voice to this. How they all got started, so forth and whatnot. Okay, but most importantly, you know, you got to choose. If you're not making your furniture out of copper, or you are, you know, you're not making the characters in your game as full life-size things. Like, what are you really doing with yourself? Okay, we're gonna go out to the lobby. One of the most spectacular items for the tour, of course, is the Cloud Spire tree. Like, this thing goes on forever. It just goes on forever. We've got fantastic people just greeting as you go in, like, okay? And of course, you have all the various, I don't know if you knew, but the Chip Theory also makes kids games. They do, of course, why not? Like, why not? Obviously, the various things and their various prices. And so you can see, this is sort of where we're hanging out. Now, I may have lost a few of you, but wait for this. The entirety of their office, as far as like cubicles go, has everything to do with shipping containers they've turned into private office space. So you can see some of these people like working at their desks. And so we're going to take a little tour as we go upstairs. Because this place just keeps on going. Like, this is their head of marketing office. Okay. Now, this table is, of course, a giant Union Jack done in leather made out of aluminum. And that's what a person really needs in their life, is a giant Union Jack made out of aluminum with then leather. This is leather. Now, I love this table. This table was at their previous office. If they ever decide to get rid of it, I want it, if I ever have room for it. Of course, then you have more playtest space, and then more space. And then what would be a trip to chip theory when I don't do this? Oh no, have they caught into my shenanigans? Okay, so there's my game. So we're gonna have to put that in a very prominent place. That's important. We'll just do that. We'll put Jeff in. Oh, this game processing is really good. Let's put this in a prominent place. That seems like a good idea. Okay. So here's a great angle of it. This place is incredible. All right, did I miss anybody's question? This is crazy. Okay, more game art, more spaces. Okay. If you like Manny stuff. This is their head of operations. This is Andrew's cubicle. All right. Now, this is where they have their team meetings or big group ups. Okay. Now we're still, we're still up a level, everybody. So here's the stuff. See, this is where we currently are. This is to prove that these are actually just shipping containers. Okay. And in the back, of course, one of the things that is the hallmark of a good chip theory game, of course, is how they look. And this is where the graphic design people all have their own space and stuff. And this is where, since they need to have their own area to then test it on, this is the deal. And of course, little tiny breakout places. Okay, so the guy I was talking about with James Hudson, the guy who writes great instruction books, is Jeff Tidball. And that's him.
They hit a guy doing spreadsheets with the graphic designers. Problematic, not smart.
When I grow up, I want to be Jeff Tidball. It's been very clear that if you can't afford him, you can probably afford me. But Jeff, of course, runs his own company, Left Justified. They brought you Grant Lyon's Pickle Game. It's kind of a big deal. So the funny thing about that game is my business partner, Fighting a Boxer, named that game because we have to participate in all pickle and cucumber-based titles. Thus, our next title, Kaiser Cucumber, and the Gangs of Mechanical Corners, is going to hit crowdfunding February 4th. And so here's a little fulfillment area for sending things to places. All right. Now, what else do you guys want to see? I think I gave you a pretty good tour of all the things. Managed to not kill myself. I'll see you later, Maxwell. I'm glad I'll get to see you tonight. All right. Fantastic, little meeting rooms. Got all this stuff. We're doing this stuff. Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to take us back to the studio to close this one out. I hope you guys had fun. I will figure out what the new schedule is. If the stay of execution for the app has really been the case, then I will try to figure out a guest for next week. It'll probably be my creative director because he'll be in town, and he and I will be talking about creative partnerships, probably. What makes a good one, what makes it successful, how to find somebody who helps you out in a way that you need help, that kind of stuff. Oh my God. Someday, we finally got an award. Look at these awards. So I finally got one. My award is coming. If you didn't know, Conquest Princess got Game of the Year from Hungry Gamer, and it made 2 top 10s, and we're very excited about it. Oh. Alrighty then. So yes, if you are a content creator and you ended up getting a copy of Kaiser Cucumber and the Gangs of Mechanical Corners at PAX, just know that crowdfund is happening and is happening on February 4th. If you haven't already, you can go check it out on fightabox.com, or I think the follow page is up on Kickstarter. That is great. Otherwise, with the state of execution, we will plan on continuing to do TikTok lives until people make me stop. If you haven't already, of course, you can check out Board Game Design Tip of the Day over on the YouTubes. And if you like these and you like the long forms of these, the reposts of those end up there. Yeah. Other than that, I'm super happy to have gotten to spend all this time with you. I'm glad I get to spend more time. Thanks everybody for making this part of your Wednesdays. Whether you spend 2 minutes with us and pop in, or you spend an hour with us and put cowboy hats on me, you are all very valuable. Otherwise, Produce Spiel Minnesota comes not this weekend, but next weekend. So if you're anywhere in around the Twin Cities and want to know how games get made, that is a great, I think it's like $10 or $20 for the weekend if you want to play games. It's incredible. Otherwise, the weekend after that is going to be 2DCon in the Twin Cities. And then after that will be Con of the North. And then at the end of the month is Gamma. So I have 4 conventions in 5 weeks. Oh. I'm hoping, like James said, the stay of execution may have happened, but we'll see. If I can do a live, I will definitely do a live. All right. As always, everybody, thank you for spending this time with us. Thanks for going on the tour. And I wish everybody a safe journey, and stay safe and have fun. All right. Have a good one, everybody.